Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them.
Welcome and thank you for joining Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free live streaming app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. As always, a huge shout out to the team, Mitch, Bill, and Sean. I love you guys. And to our special advisory committee that can be found at www.scbrtalk.com/advisory committee. Visit that link and check out the leaders that are doing the work. All right, everybody, today I have the distinct honor to introduce Patricia Rillera, the California State Executive Director for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. In this role, she manages a professionally dedicated staff and implements MADD course services within the state of California, which touches millions of people through research-based platforms, a mission-driven volunteer base, impactful victim advocacy, and an array of underage drinking prevention programs. Patricia always held jobs where empathy and compassion are a big part of the job description. She spent decades developing and building business models and helping to prepare hundreds of students to be competitive for college, and is an accomplished veteran in corporate and nonprofit management. After a successful career as an entrepreneur and educational advocate, Patricia joined MADD in 2013. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Pat.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure.
Beautiful. So as you know, the first question I ask every one of my guests is to please walk us through your journey and what inspired you to now being the California State Executive Director for Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Well, fortunately for me and for my family, we don't have a cause connection to MADD, which is a great thing. I basically came to MADD based off of my business experience and really bringing that to MADD so that we could grow California. We can make MADD services more available to the residents of California. So it really came out of a business need and not necessarily out of a need related to MADD's mission.
Wow, that's remarkable. That's great, right? Because you weren't a victim, you don't have an affiliation, right. You didn't have to go through a horrendous experience, which is what you advocate for, or against, I should say.
Yes.
Please, Pat, share a little history about MADD and how it was established.
So MADD was started in 1980 by a mother right here in Northern California, actually, who lost her daughter to a repeat offender, drunk driving offender. And she was not a legislator, she was not a politician, but she was a mother who turned her grief into compassion. And she really became a one-woman show going across the country and really advocating for standardized processes for individuals who get DUIs. Because the individual who killed her daughter had prior DUIs. And there was really back in 1980, there was really no standardized penalties. There were no standardized process in terms of determining when a person was employed. So she set on that journey. We are now in our 43rd year. And while we still have the same mission and the same focus, our strategies have changed a little bit. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But it really just started out of a mother who was angry that an individual plowed down her daughter. And there was really very little that was being done back in 1980 about that. So that still continues to be a little bit of an issue in terms of the penalties, but at least we have standardized processes because of her. And so that's how MADD started. And today we have offices and chapters all across the country. We have volunteers who are advocates with us. But what we do best is we support victims. So victims across the country, I don't care, wherever there's a victim, there's a MADD office. So we support victims to really stabilize their lives when something so tragic happens unexpectedly and suddenly. So we are still doing the work 43 years later.
Wow, that is remarkable. 4 decades. Please
Yeah.
talk about maybe some of those standardized policies that have evolved throughout the 43 years of MADD from the inception to today.
So I think one of the policies that most people don't really realize that was as a result of MADD is the 0.08 blood alcohol concentration level. So that is the standardized level across the country in the United States that individuals use to determine if a person is impaired. And so that was all part of MADD's legislative work. Actually, Kenny Leitner, the originator of MADD, it was a part of her work, and that became federal law in 1990. So that's one of the most critical pieces that really that we've had impact with. The other thing that's noteworthy is when we first started in 1980, our focus was alcohol. Well, clearly, with marijuana being legal in a lot of states, California included, we've now increased our mission to include not only alcohol, but drugs as well. And there's a whole array of drugs that kind of fits within under that umbrella. So MADD's mission overall, which was the same in 1980 as it is today, is to end drunk driving, help stop drug driving, to work with the victims of this terrible crime, and prevent underage drinking. So working with the kids, trying to make an impact with these young people.
Right. So, Pat, please share some statistics of age groups for offenders and victims. Do you see trends? What do the statistics say?
Well, what the statistics are showing us now is that there is definitely a trend where drunk driving injuries and deaths are increasing. So, for example, with the latest statistics that we have, which is in 2021, those are the latest statistics, there were 13,000, almost 14,000 people who lost their lives as a result of drunk driving in the United States. Here in California, it was almost 1,400. Now, that may not sound like a lot to some people, but if you just kind of process that, sit down and think about those numbers, that's tragic. And so what that translates to for us is every 39 minutes. So that by the time we do this session and a little bit over, there's another person who's lost their lives as a result of drunk driving. So, we have an epidemic. We really need to focus on this. And so we spend a lot of time talking to the youth. We spend a lot of time in the communities, kind of educating communities about what they can and cannot do. And we work with law enforcement. We're working with law enforcement. We work with district attorneys' offices. We collaborate with a lot of community-based organizations to really address this issue. So it's an epidemic that we have, and especially here in California, because noteworthy also is California is second to Texas in terms of having the largest number of DUI-related deaths and injuries.
Wow. And so can you talk a little bit about how that number has jumped, let's say, from 2018 through 2021? During our conversations, you noted like a tremendous spike during that time.
So during COVID, for some reason, during COVID, the numbers just escalated. And you would think that the numbers would remain stable or actually be reduced because most people, we were supposed to be locked down. Right. But it's really an interesting statistic how those numbers increased during that time. And the numbers continue to rise because of that. Now, we do know that during COVID, you could get liquor delivered to your home. There are a lot of aspects of what was going on there, but definitely there is a trend that started during COVID that still has continued through the latest statistics, which are 2021. So what we really would encourage people to do is if you're going to drink and or do drugs of any type, to really do it responsibly. Plan ahead. You need to really kind of plan ahead. There's rideshare, there's Uber, there's Lyft, and now there's cruise automation and Waymo, the self-driving cars. So there are a lot of options. In addition to public transportation, there are a lot of options that we have available. But it takes all of us too. It takes all of us working together. So if we have parties at our house during the holiday season, or if we see someone who's impaired, I think it's our responsibility to really kind of pull them aside a little bit, get them a cab or get them an Uber to kind of take them home and not allow them to get behind the wheel of a vehicle, because it's a really simple solution. If you're impaired, don't get behind the wheel. And that's not just vehicles, that's boats, that's motorcycles, that's anything that one has responsibility for when they're behind the wheel.
Right. So, Pat, please talk about some of those community stakeholders, both private and public, that come to you seeking those resources, that guidance and support to ensure that they're implementing best practices for their environment.
So I would say our top collaborator would be law enforcement. So often law enforcement are first ones on site. They will make the referrals for us. They'll give the cards to victims' families and ask them to reach out to MADD when they're in those situations. We go to their checkpoints. We try to educate individuals that are going through checkpoints with information that law enforcement have. We work with the California Office of Traffic Safety. The California Office of Traffic Safety gives us guidance in terms of some strategies we can use here in California to try to improve those statistics in terms of drunk and drug driving. We work with district attorneys' offices. We work with prosecutors, all of those individuals, because they all have an invested interest. They all see the carnage that happens every single day. So we have a lot of collaborative partnerships and relationships. But again, the most important one is what we do with that victim. When a victim is injured and they reach out to MADD, as you can imagine, most times they are so in a grief state that they cannot make a decision. And MADD has what we call victim services advocates all across the state. And their jobs really are just to step in and be a voice for those people, those victims. And we call families of people who have been killed, we call them victims too, because they have been victimized. So they step in for these victims. They hold their hand. They help them make funeral arrangements. They accompany them to court if they have to go to court, and they really form these partnerships and these relationships that are longstanding. So a lot of the victims that we work with later become volunteers with us because the relationships are so deep at that point.
Right. Wow, that is remarkable. And that's wonderful. It just fills me with so much warmth and something to hear that you are so robust in your support for victims and their families. Absolutely remarkable. And so as we're approaching the holidays, we just passed Thanksgiving. Please share a little bit about when you see a rise in those events, those tragedies occurring.
Well, as you can imagine, the Thanksgiving through the New Year is where we see a tremendous increase. And that's because more people are getting together. People are gathering with friends and family, which is a great thing. It's great to socialize like that. But what we suggest is make a plan. If you know you like to drink, and you like to do whatever it else, marijuana or whatever it is, just make a plan, have a plan so that when you are impaired, that you don't make the mistake to get into a vehicle and drive or to sleep it off. Stay where, if you're going to someone's home, if it's a friend, if it's a family member, stay there. Don't put yourself behind the wheel. Something interesting too, I just recently heard of a case where a gentleman had a outpatient procedure, and he was under anesthesia. And often they tell you to have a driver take you home when you've been under anesthesia. Well, he didn't do that. He decided that he was going to be well enough, and he was going to drive himself. And he was arrested for impairment. And so that's another one of those cases where if you've had a medical procedure or something similar, that you don't get behind the wheel, that you do call an Uber or use some other form of transportation. There's got to be somebody out there who would come and pick you up or would get a car for you if you needed an Uber. So we're just asking everyone during this time, because the numbers increased tremendously throughout Thanksgiving to New Year.
Right.
It's overwhelmingly high. Just whatever you do with your partying, party responsibly.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, myself personally, after 10 o'clock, I don't like to be on the road. Is there a trend as to the times when these events occur most? That's kind of my thing. I have 3 kids, 2 on the road, and I always tell them be home by 9 because after 10, you don't know what's out there. It's better to be safe at home. Is that just kind of like my own silly way of thinking, or is there something to it?
I mean, there's something to it because if you think about it, when people leave bars, when they leave establishments, you're talking that 1 to 5 o'clock in the morning kind of time frame when people are leaving, and those people are, if they're driving, often are impaired. So no, there is some statistics around that there is a certain time of the morning, early morning, when there are more risks to impairment. And so, yes, there is some value to that. And I get it. I think I do the same thing. I'm always conscious about leaving around that 2 o'clock in the morning time frame to go anywhere. So again, it's we being MADD don't have anything against people who drink or choose to do drugs if they're over the age of 21. That's their choice. But what we're saying is, please think about your behavior, think about your patterns that you are exhibiting, and have a friend. If your friend hasn't been drinking or doing drugs, have a friend support you, have an Uber. An Uber is going to cost a lot less than a DUI is going to cost, I can tell you that. So that would be a good option for individuals to take. But yes, absolutely, those numbers are going to increase, and there is a specific time of the morning where there's the biggest impact.
Right. And especially the cost of the guilt of realizing you have severely harmed somebody or taken somebody's life, right? I can't even imagine having to live with something like that.
Right.
I know you also work with victim impact panels. Pat, please tell us about those victim impact panels.
So victim impact panels are an opportunity for us to talk to individuals who've gotten a DUI. So if they're lucky and they get a DUI, the court will give them a second chance almost and allow them to come to a MADD victim impact panel. And what that panel consists of, it really is law enforcement. Sometimes we have individuals from the city attorney or district attorney's offices to come and talk to them. And we also have a victim. We have a victim, and it's a non-judgmental kind of conversation where we actually have a victim that talks to them from their heart about how their life has changed since their loved one was injured and or killed. And in the cases of injuries, oftentimes we have the injured individual who's actually leading that session. So those victim impact panels are designed to help change behaviors. Because look, what we also know is that sometimes people just make dumb mistakes. It's just somebody who knew they shouldn't have gotten in a car, but they think they're going to be okay and they're going to get to their destination okay, and they just make a dumb mistake and they get into the car and they get a DUI. And then there are others who are habitual DUI offenders, and so we have a combination of both at that class. But what the individual who just makes a dumb mistake, that coming to a session like that really has a positive impact. And for those who may be a habitual offender, they think about it. So it's a very effective program for us. We work with thousands of offenders every year here in the state of California because we're really trying to change behaviors, not in a negative way, but just really showing them what an impact it has on just an average person who's lost their loved one.
Absolutely. And I believe that's something that everyone can connect with, right? Everyone has a loved one. Everyone has a friend, a sibling, a parent, somebody that's close to them that if anything ever happened to them, they would be hurt. They would be devastated, right? And that brings me to the sad reality that I know, and I don't know that this is true statistically. Maybe you can clarify this, but my understanding is that 9 times out of 10, the offenders are the ones that walk away and the victims don't, right?
Unfortunately, that is correct. That is often the case. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But the alcohol really relaxes the body, and so their bodies are relaxed at impact, whereas a person who is unaware, theirs may not be. But that is definitely an accurate description of what happens. And so, it's really so tragic all around. And for those who have a cause connection and who's lost a loved one or who has had a loved one injured, they totally get it. What I find sometimes is those who have not had a cause connection, they're not really as intimately connected to what we say in terms of our messaging because they haven't had that cause connection yet. It hasn't affected them. But what we know is that the majority of people will be affected in some way by a drunk driver at some point in their lifetime. We know that statistics show us all of that. So again, I keep going back to the simple solution, which is if you're impaired, don't get behind the wheel of a vehicle. Just don't do it.
Right. And it's like you said, proper planning, have a friend, schedule an Uber, let them know where you're going to be, and be safe. I mean, there really are no excuses in today's age. There's so many transportation opportunities, right?
There's none. We have a man has a relationship with the NFL, and with most home games for the Rams, we are on site. We have a team of staff that's on site. And one of the questions we ask them when they come to that game, because clearly drinking and kind of having a great time is kind of synonymous with NFL games. But one of the questions we ask is, do you have a designated driver today? So we kind of ask everybody going in because there's an expectation that they are going to drink because that's kind of part of the whole process of going to an NFL game. And so we reward them. We have little giveaways that we give them. And so it gives us a good glimpse into who's actually using designated drivers and who's not. And interesting enough, I would say it's a good balance. The numbers are increasing with the number of people that are beginning to take a look at rideshare as an option or bringing someone who does not drink to be their designated driver. So while I may talk about some of the really tragic impact, there are some very positives as well. In addition to the adults that are over 21, the impact we're having on kids, the teens who are under 21 that we work with. There's some positive efforts there as well.
Right. And so aside from hurting someone, dismembering someone, or killing someone in the process of drunk driving or drugged driving, what is the cost, the dollar amount, if and when these people are pulled over and have to go through the legal process of facing a DUI?
Well, it varies, but they're looking somewhere upward of about $10,000 is what they're looking at with all-inclusive costs that they have to come up with. So $10,000 versus what, $10, $15 of an Uber? Do the math. I mean, it just makes better sense to do it that way. But people have to kind of figure that out sometimes, but it's a really simple solution to get around all of that.
Absolutely. And so when you attend these NFL games, what is the tone of the fans that are going in that you're interfacing with and, bringing top of mind some of these strategies and preparation efforts to prevent them from getting on the road under the influence?
I would say overwhelmingly, the majority of the folks at an NFL game, because they're there to have a good time and they're already happy just coming into the game. Everybody loves SoFi, so they're excited to be there. It's very positive and they receive it very well. We don't get negativity from folks, or they don't say bah humbug or anything like that. They're just open. But what we're looking for is how many of those folks are actually using alternative forms of transportation if they will be drinking, or how many people have a designated driver. So that's really what we're looking at to see if there's really impact for events where there is a high percentage of alcohol usage. And NFL games are definitely those. But no, it's really positively received. We don't typically get negativity from anyone. So people are open to it, but it's just a matter of choice. And if a person is affected, they will change their mind. But until they're affected, they it's real kind of a loose kind of concern that they have. And also keep in mind how alcohol is glorified. Look at movies. Alcohol is always kind of sexy and fun, when you're looking at the movies. But what they don't talk about is they don't talk about after you've had that sexy and fun drink or multiple drinks, what's an effective way to kind of handle yourself, conduct yourself if you have to get into a vehicle.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming up on a break, Pat. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Yvette Walker here with ABC News and Talk, Southern California Business Report, here today with Patricia Rillera, California State Executive Director for MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, talking about advocacy, startling statistics, and ways you can help combat the rising loss of life due to drunk and drug driving when we return.
Cal State San Bernardino is home to the only school of entrepreneurship in California. With globally ranked degree programs, you can start your journey today to become a successful entrepreneur. Learn more and connect at entre.csusb.edu.
Hi, Ray Lance from the Diamond Center in the Claremont Village here. One of the coolest parts of a third-generation family business is getting to know the families we serve through generations. Once you experience our friendly service, our fair and transparent pricing, and our beautiful jewelry that we make to last a lifetime, you'll stick with us too. Come visit us in the Claremont Village or at Lantz, L-A-N-T-Z, diamondcenter.com and see what makes us different.
Ontario International Airport is onto a better way to fly with over 65 daily nonstop flights to more than 20 major destinations and the easiest airport experience in Southern California. Visit flyonto.com/Ontario to learn more about Ontario International Airport today.
Hi, I'm San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes. If you're looking to start an exciting career in law enforcement and make a difference in your community, we are hiring dispatchers, nurses, deputies, laterals, and many more. For a complete list of our jobs and more information, visit sheriffsjobs.com.
The University of La Verne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in La Verne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of La Verne. go.laverne.edu.
Hi, I'm Dana Rademacher with MGR Property Management.
A lot of people wonder about the value that property management has for their property. Property management can include all property types, including residential, commercial, and HOA. It is valuable because property managers are experienced in what can happen at your property. We're aware of liabilities. We're able to do predictive and preventative maintenance. We know what is coming up with the changes in the weather, the seasons, how old certain aspects or different capital projects at your property are. We're able to best negotiate contract pricing, legalities with your tenants, and anything else that you may need to ensure that you're getting the full value of your property.
If you're interested in speaking with the representative at MGR Property Management regarding your property management needs, you can visit our website at mgrrealestate.com, or you can call our number at area code 909-581-6600 to be connected with the representative.
Welcome back, everyone. Yvette Walker here with ABC News and Talk, Southern California Business Report, here today with Patricia Rillera, California State Executive Director for MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, talking about advocacy, startling statistics, and ways you can help combat the rising loss of life due to drunk and drugged driving. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Pat.
Thank you for inviting me.
Beautiful. So prior to the break, you gave us an overview of some of the more, broad stroke approach of what MADD does, its origins, and how you interact with the major stakeholders in the communities.
Yes.
And you also touched on advocacy for victims' rights. Please expand on that and how MADD contributes and champions those efforts.
So the most important way that we champion those efforts are through legislation. So we are very involved with legislation across the country, really, that advocates for victims for primarily for tougher laws. The laws are really lax when it comes to a DUI death, specifically because DUI deaths are not considered a crime to the same degree as other deaths by firearm or by some form like that. But if you are a victim of a loved one who just gotten killed by a drunk driver, you're not going to understand why you lose a loved one. And they may or may not serve time in prison. And if they do, in some cases, they only serve months. They don't even serve years. So we advocate on a regular basis for victims' rights, that there's got to be more that we can do, especially here in California, to really kind of give some kind of support to these victims, because it is a crime. A DUI death is 100% preventable, anytime, all the time, and it is a death caused by a crime, because those are choices. When people get behind the wheel of a vehicle, everybody knows that if they're impaired, a real simple answer is not to get behind the wheel, but those are choices that individuals make. So there has to be consequences for those kinds of choices. And what we're seeing is that the consequences aren't as seriously, aren't taken as serious, and the penalties aren't as strong as they should be. So yes, we advocate on a regular basis for the victims here in California and across the country, not just here in California.
Right,
Absolutely.
which is startling, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a choice. And regardless of how that choice came to happen and the loss of life occurred, it was still a choice. And when you look at the numbers, close to 14,000 just in 2021, that is enough to fill one of those stadiums you're talking about.
That's right.
Imagine a stadium full of people that should be here today that are gone because of that one wrong choice that could have been prevented, 100% preventable.
100%. And just imagine what those families' lives are like as we begin to celebrate this holiday season. So we just went through Thanksgiving. They're going to have an empty chair, at least one empty chair. And in some cases, there's whole families that have been destroyed and killed in drunk driving crashes. And so, there's that emotional piece that kind of goes with that. And oftentimes they don't get satisfaction from the judicial system because the laws just are so lax that the penalties are too light for losing a loved one. And that loved one was simply going about their business. As simple as Kenny Leitner, who started up MADD, her daughter walking home from a carnival, a local carnival in the community, or of a family we know where the son was he had just gotten a big record deal and he was walking across the street to meet his friend, and the drunk driver plowed through the light and red light and it didn't stop. And another case that really kind of comes to mind too is a family that we work with where the mother was in bed. She had gone to bed. She was sleeping, not bothering anyone. And a car plows through her house and kills her in the bed. So those are deaths. Those are devastations. But the penalties are really light for individuals in a lot of these cases. And we've got to do more about it.
Absolutely. And I understand you have school programs. Please talk about those programs that you have in the schools today.
So MADD has several research-based programs that they offer to not only teens, but teens and their parents. Because when we teach a teen about the perils of drunk and drug driving, we need to educate their parents as well, so they're on the same page. So we have what we call Power of Youth. And it's basically a program that's designed to basically educate the teens about the perils so that they know all the facts about drug and alcohol. And then we even encourage them through peer counselors to be advocates in their school system, in their middle schools or in their high schools. And we have a group of young people throughout California, more in Southern California than Northern, but we call them teen influencers. And these teen influencers put on workshops for their peers. They publish a newsletter every month, and they talk about what teens want to talk about, but they talk about it from the perspective that they have made a pledge not to drink or do drugs before they are an adult. And as when they become an adult, they will reevaluate it and see if that's something they want to do. But here's the good news. When you have catch a teen and you work with a teen and they have become so invested in not drinking and driving because they understand the facts, chances are when they turn 21, they are still not interested. And one example of that's my grandson. My grandson went through a lot of, well, I guess by default with me, hearing a lot about what happens. And so even as a sophomore in college, he's still not interested in those types of things. So we know that we have an impact on the young people. I think anything you do with young people and you educate them and you talk to them at their level and not as an adult level and telling them what they can and cannot do, but just educate them about what the perils are in terms of impairment. And we just have a wonderful, wonderful relationship with schools and some of these students, and it's really having a positive impact.
That's remarkable. Thank you so much for doing that. Pat, are there costs involved with these programs, the advocacy programs, the panel programs, the school programs? Are there costs associated with these efforts that MADD implements across the board for survivors and for the community to engage and be educated on the perils of drunk and drug driving and offering solutions like planning and resources?
So there are no costs to victims for victim services. Those are all provided and no cost to the victim. There are no costs to the teens to educate them. The only cost or fee-based program that MADD has is the program where we work with offenders, the victim impact panels. With victim impact panels, that is a fee-based program. But no, there are no fees because we're not really trying to collect money around that. We're trying to educate people so that they make good choices. And by making good choices, especially when you're younger, that increases the chance that you're going to make really smart decisions as an adult. And you're not going to get behind the wheel of a vehicle when you know that you're impaired or if you think you're impaired. So our investment is in the individuals, not necessarily looking to get paid for that. No, not at all.
Wow. So please talk about the best way for the community to engage and support your efforts alongside MADD.
So one of the best ways to support us is to fundraise help us fundraise, because as I just mentioned, the majority of the services that MADD provides are at no cost. And so we need support, we need sponsors, we need individuals to come and make donations. You can make donations several ways on your social media pages. There are birthday donations. You can make a donation to MADD. If you shop at certain grocery stores, Ralph's, for example, when you go and buy your groceries, you can donate to MADD. A percentage of your funds would go. Same thing with Amazon. Amazon is another one. We have Walk Like MADD 5K events throughout California. Come join us, form a team and walk with us at Walk Like MADD, or form your own fundraiser with the proceeds going to MADD, or anything else creative you come with. But that's definitely one way. Volunteering. We would love to have volunteers. Come volunteer with us, advocate with us, write letters to your legislators about what I just talked about in terms of the laws being so lax. And then support rideshare. And if you have parties and you have individuals at your party and you know they're impaired, don't allow them to get into that vehicle and drive. And so those are just a few ways that you can become involved with us. We welcome anybody. You can call us. You can reach out to us at MADD California on our Instagram and Facebook pages, and we're happy to send you over an application and get you set up with us. But we are always looking for great advocates to work with us.
Absolutely. And, I also noticed on your website that you have efforts with advanced technology that you're leading. Please talk about that before we go.
So, MADD has been in this business for 43 years. So what we learned over these 43 years, one of the things we've learned is that we feel that technology really is the answer to really curtailing and ending drunk driving, because you take away the human element. And so MADD has partnered with, of course, Uber and Lyft. We have a wonderful partnership with them where we always advocate for individuals to do rideshare. But even more advanced than that, we currently have a partnership that we've established with Cruise Automation and with Waymo. Waymo and Cruise Automation are two self-driving car technologies where you don't really have a human element. You really just you hail a car like you would an Uber, except there's no one driving the car. Mm-hmm. So we are huge advocates of technology. And in addition to that, in 2021, the president integrated into the to one of the bills that MADD had advocated for cars that would have technology that can determine when a person is impaired. So it would be a touch technology or it could be a breath technology. The manufacturers of the vehicles get to choose. We're hoping to have that all of those specifics worked out within the next couple of years so that we can start having vehicles roll off the line. Now, that is extremely promising because that doesn't target a person who's impaired. That targets anybody because this is technology that's going to be in all new cars. And so technology really is the direction we're going to really kind of take away that human element and utilize vehicles that are self-driving and have protections installed.
Absolutely. And so with that said, Pat, are there resources that can be implemented during that planning process, right? That planning process of going to a party, planning process of going to an NFL game that people can reach out to MADD for and say, hey, we understand you are the end all to be all of resources. Connect me with resources so I can plan and I can do better moving forward.
We have all kinds of tips and tools. If someone were to reach out to our office, we're happy to share those tips and tools in terms of how to have a really good time and do it safely. We have, like I said, we have partnerships with Uber and Lyft. Sometimes we're able to get discounts for you if money is an issue for you to take a ride share. So just call the office. We're happy to help you out.
Perfect. And so again, Pat, what are some good practices for those who are looking to host conscientious gatherings over the holidays, right? Because we all have family, we all have friends, we want to host and, let everybody eat, drink, and be merry, so to speak. But as a host, what responsibility or what conscientious efforts do you feel are part of good practice for that environment?
Well, I think the first one is make sure that anyone who comes to your party, that you provide a rideshare, Uber or Lyft, or you identify individuals who have had a little bit too much to drink or whatever they're doing. I mean, drinking is not the only thing they're doing these days. So, but if they're too impaired, that you as the host stop them. But here's another idea. Why not serve mocktails? Try mocktails instead of alcohol. Make it a fun experience where you're sharing mocktails. And there's wonderful mocktail recipes, and those are non-alcoholic drinks. And so try that for a party, because I think that's one of the issues that we have around alcohol and drugs is most people equate fun with alcohol. Well, you can have fun without alcohol. And so maybe that's another tip, that you can show your friends and family how you have fun without getting inebriated. So there's a couple of strategies you can try. And again, call MADD. You can go to the MADD websites. There are tips and strategies online as well, if you don't want to call the office.
Beautiful. So, Pat, can you share with us some of MADD's goals as they look into 2024?
So as we look into 2024, there are a couple of high priority issues for us. One is the technology to make sure that we push the RIDE Act and all of these other technologies that we have so that new manufactured vehicles have technology already installed. Take away that human element. The second piece of that is what I alluded to earlier too, is tough legislation for individuals who kill and or injure individuals. And those are our top priorities here in California. Currently, we have ignition interlocks, access to ignition interlocks here in California, which is a way to kind of deter people who've gotten DUIs from driving vehicles because their vehicle has a device on it that's called an ignition interlock. And if they're impaired, when they blow into a device, their vehicle isn't going to start. Well, that's as good as we have here in California, but I think we can do better. So we're going to focus on the technology, and we're going to focus on these tougher laws to make sure that people are held accountable for killing and maiming people as it relates to drunk driving.
Absolutely. So, Pat, do you have a message for those who have been victims of drunk or drugged driving?
So for the victims of drunk and drug driving, we know how difficult it is because on a daily basis, we see the grief that you go through. We know that there is no time limit on when you stop grieving. As a matter of fact, I don't even think it ever ends. I think it's so traumatic that grief doesn't end. We get it. And we encourage you to come to MADD because we are a family of victim-focused family, and we get it. We'd love for you to come and be engaged with us. We have support groups. If you'd like to join our support group, they're virtual. You don't have to leave the comfort of your home. You can join these virtual support groups. And these support groups are, again, free of cost to anyone who would like to use it. And these are people who are like-minded. These are people who have been through the same level of grief that you have, and they might have a little different perspective from your friends or your neighbors or whomever else you talk with. So we support all victims, and just reach out to us and we'll embrace you.
So with that said, Pat, please share with our audience today, what is the best way for the community to honor and remember victims of drunk and drugged driving? So on December 6th, we are having a press conference and a candlelight vigil in honor of victims who have lost loved ones or victims who are injured. We encourage everyone to join us. This is an event that's going to be at City Hall. We are lighting up Southern California in support of victims. So major monuments, City Hall will be lit up. There will be major monuments from LAX, actually from Long Beach, LAX, all the way to downtown LA. And we're going to light it up red. And that's really to honor those people who have lost loved ones, because this is a really tough time for people who have lost their loved ones when they have empty chairs. And so we encourage everyone to join us, come down to City Hall, downtown LA, at about 5:00 on December 6th. Wow. And so please, office, and we can give you more information as well. Yes. Please share that website and that phone number for the audience to connect. It's www.maddcalifornia. Okay, so we were going to post that phone number when we upload this video and this conversation so that you can reach out directly to MADD for that December 6th event and other events and resources to prevent these tragedies from continuing to happen, both from a victim standpoint and educational standpoint. Pat, thank you so much for your dedication, for your work, for your advocacy, and for your heart to serve the victims, educate people, would-be offenders, prevent these events from occurring, and hopefully saving at least one life. Thank you so much for your help and your work in this vein.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. As we all know, it is Giving Tuesday, and I want to highlight a few nonprofits, including MADD, which we just heard from today, that include San Antonio Regional Hospital's fundraising efforts to expand their cardiac rehabilitation unit, where every dollar up to $100,000 will be matched when you visit sahfgivingtues.givesmart.com. Call 909-920-4962 or email foundation@sarh.org for more information. Let's help make this expansion a reality. The Hope Through Housing Foundation is another great one. Consider making a contribution to impact the lives of kids, families, and seniors, as they will be welcoming hundreds of families home in 2024. Your support will allow them to connect with critical support to ensure they are able to reach for a brighter future. Visit hthf.org or call 909-442-4500 or email info@hthf.org for more information. Of course, another one of my favorites, CASA of San Bernardino, or the San Bernardino County Court-appointed special advocates advocating for children in the foster care system. You too can touch and transform a life with your donation by visiting casaofsb.org or calling 909-881-6760. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Check us out on scbrtalk.com. Don't miss my interview with Jeff and Seth Burham, managing partner of the Empire Strikers, a premier indoor soccer team that play at Toyota Arena, president of Major Arena Soccer League, and chairman of National Community Renaissance. Next week, we will have Dr. Ron Heredia, who earned a bachelor's in psychology from UCLA, a master's in education with a concentration in psychology from Pepperdine University, and a doctorate at Pepperdine Graduate School of University, talking about Inland Empire future leaders. You do not want to miss it. We will see you next week, everyone.